The broadcast is now starting. All
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our webinar on the project management side of ProjX360. My name's Doug Greenwald. Along with me is Jason Jones and Amy, and they're both Jason's the senior developer, and Amy is one of the developers on the software. Couple housekeeping rules before we get started. We're going to go through the full presentation and everything. After the presentation is done, we'll open up the floor to questions, and we'll go through and do a Q&A section. Send in your questions through the question section or use the hand raise feature, and we can even unmute you and you can ask your question out loud. So that being said, we'll get into this. So we're kind of going to pick up a little bit where we left off last week. So last week we covered the sales CRM and the proposal piece. So once a proposal has been approved and everything, you're going to want to create a project because now it's a real deal. So what you're going to do when you're inside the proposal here, go over to the cog in the upper right-hand corner and hit Create Project. It'll then pull all the information over into the project management side of the software. You'll then select who your project manager is going to be. Also, you can click the More tab, and this is where you can choose your different project statuses. So a project status is a filtering feature that you can, in settings, name whatever these statuses you want them to be. Like, is it something that is going on this week? Is it something that's maybe happening next week? Is it in progress or delayed? Whatever you want, you'll select the status. Also, under category, you can create as many different categories as you'd like. So a category could be whatever you want it to be. It's a filtering feature. So it could be builders you work with, architects, developments you're working on, whatever you want, service, whatever you want it to be, you can filter that. Then you're going to hit OK, and it'll then create the project for it. You can grab a color code for the project from one of your color schemes that you've set up and select that. It is not required to do that, so you don't have to select a color scheme if you don't want to. Since you can also then create different templates. So you can create, and I'll go through the settings of this in a little bit, but you can create different project templates. And what a project template consists of, it's pre-picking the different settings you want. Basically, your different trades that you're going to associate with on a regular basis, the checklists for those types of projects or whatever that template relates to, and also the custom forms. But for this demonstration, I'm not going to select the template. I'm just going to manually go through and show everything to you guys. The next section here is the time tracking. So again, if there was no proposal involved, this is where you would select your different time tracking phases, and you could put in budgeted hours for those. But since there is a proposal involved, then we're going to be pushing all the labor phases and labor hours over from the proposal. I'm just going to check this box. I do not want to set up time tracking at this time because it'll do it for us in the next step. Then I'm going to go through and select the different checklists I want to have for this project. And again, you can select as many as you want. And this is not necessarily a required option that you have to do. So you don't have to do this if you don't want to. You can always come back and edit and do it later. I'm going to go through also and add my custom forms that I want to add. So, if I want a motorized shade or, network switches, whatever that form is. And then also I have my pre-populated forms that come with the software that I could select and add also. When I'm done with that, I'm just going to X out of it, and it's going to pull up the proposal that's associated with this in front of me, and it's going to have everything listed here. So this is going to be the entire proposal. I can select individually the items I want to push over, Or if I'm pushing over the whole proposal, I can just hit check all and it'll select everything. But like I said, if you're doing thing by system or by phase, you can do that also. Then you're going to hit next. It'll give you a preview of the product and the labor phases and hours that are being pushed over, so you can verify, make sure that looks right. If not, just hit cancel and it'll take you back. But if everything looks good, just hit save products. And now it'll open everything up into the project details page. So we officially created the project for that proposal. As you can see, the proposal name followed into the project name. If you do want to edit any of this, you can just click on it and edit it. But that kind of goes back to the best practices again, all the way back, again, if you remember from last week, the deals, when you're creating that opportunity in the sales process and naming that deal, to name it, come up with a naming scheme that makes sense, because it follows you all the way through the process. Also, a project is not a client. There's a client associated with a project, but a project's actually kind of think of as a location, because a client could have multiple projects going on. So what we did before, it pushed that proposal over by location in here, but without pricing. So the technicians can kind of see a scope of work for that, so they can see everything right there. It also pushed over all the labor phases and labor hours into the time tracking section, as you can see. So you can actually track time against what was proposed versus actual, so you can see if something goes over budget instantly. You can go through and edit, put in a gate code if you want. You can put in projected start time, estimated completion. So you have a bunch of different fields here. By just clicking on them, you can enter information in there if you'd like. I'm going to switch over to a project that has some stuff already populated, so I can walk you through this project details page without having to spend the time populating a bunch of stuff. So I'm going to take you into this guy right here. So we're on this project details page, which the project details page you can think of as a dashboard for the project. So this is where everything lives. Like I already showed you, you have your proposal over here under proposal product. Your time tracking's underneath here, and you can see instantly if something's going over budget by phase, how the overall health of the overall project is. But there's a lot of other sections here. So first off, you can customize the way you want to, the order you want to see all these different fields by going into the cog here and hit edit layout. And you can turn off by clicking the eye and drag and drop the order that you want things to appear. So you can kind of customize that a little bit to your liking. But let's kind of go through each section here. So this first section is called work orders. So this is going to show really all the work orders for the whole history of this project all live right here. And then you can also filter them by the two types of work orders that we have. We have project work orders, which again, these are designed for during the build of the project. These are the work orders you're creating for your guys while you're building the project. And then the next work order are the service work orders, which are the service calls after the fact. So you can filter them out. You can click on any one of these to go into the detail of that work order, which is really handy. So if the technician hasn't been out there before, or if you have a separate service department, they can kind of click on some of the more recent work orders and see kind of some of the work that's been done there, so they're not going out into that project in the complete blind. And I'll get more into work orders in a second here. What we're showing here are all the customizable checklists. So remember when we were selecting the checklists in the setup there? This is where they'll be displayed. And you can create as many checklists as you want under the Manage Checklist section right over here under Projects on the left-hand side. And a checklist can be whatever you want it to be. It could be an overall procedural checklist. It could be a trim checklist. It could be a final. It could be a pre-wire. It could be whatever you want it to be. When the guys click on it, they can expand it and see what's been completed and what hasn't been. Then the guys in the field, as they're finishing things, can check things off that it's been completed, and it stamps who checked it off and when, so there's accountability. And as you can see, it updated the percentage of completion of this checklist. Going down, like I mentioned, time tracking, but we're also tied to Google Maps. We have a feature called discussions. This is really handy. We use it a lot in my company, my integration company. So you can create a discussion about a project inside of a project. To add a discussion, just simply click the plus symbol, and you can give it a title, describe what it is, grab whatever employees are necessary to partake in this discussion, and then depending on how their notifications are set up, which I'll touch base on notifications again a little later. They can set up notifications that they just receive a software notification, which is up here in the upper right-hand corner of the software, or an email notification, or both, or you have the option of no notification. They'll get a notification that a new discussion was created with a link. The link will take them to the project here. They can click on the discussion, and then they can reply to it. And when they reply to it, it creates a nice thread of a conversation, and it actually stamps who replied and when. So there's a log. And so instead of just random emails scattered everywhere, we have a nice log of that discussion inside the project for your records. You can also create one-off tasks. So the majority of your tasks will be done inside of work orders for your technicians and so forth. But there's always a need to create one-off tasks. An example would be to create a task for the office manager to maybe invoice for the deposit. When you do create a task, you'll select who that task is for, describe what it is, and then also give it a due date. And again, depending on notifications, they'll get an email notification, software notification, or both. And then also in the notifications, you can set up, whoever created it, that you can get notified when anything is changed inside the status of that task. You can then upload any documents. So any important documents, floor plans, system programs, whatever you want, you can upload right here. You can create nice folders to keep everything organized. But whatever you want, upload here, pre-wire photos. Again, we're trying to keep everything in one location for the project. Here's all your notes. So you can see the form notes from the pre-populated forms. We have a secured notes section. This is permission-based. So if you want private notes between management, you can do that. We have a general notes section. And this is all for everybody. And then also the notes from the time clock are brought over right here also. For invoices, you can see all the invoice history. So any of the service invoices that have ever been created for this project live right here. And you can also click on any one of these to go right inside the invoice. Then if you remember on setup, we had those custom forms. So up here in the left-hand corner, under forms, you can click on that, and you can see all the forms that you selected for this project. And a form can be anything you want. You can create as many of those custom forms under projects and custom forms right here as you'd like. You could have a network form, for instance, that has all the client's network information, their SSID for their router, their different access points, their internet provider, their television provider, other services. You could have a system design form that when they click on the processor, they can see what's in the different COM ports and the different relays, a snapshot of how the audio distribution's laid out, how the video distribution's laid out, whatever you want. You can create those custom forms that you want. Then kind of going through underneath projects here before we go into work orders, some of the settings you want to touch base on are, project categories. So these are those categories I was telling you about. You can create as many of these as you'd want. And you can click on the cog here to add a new category right here. And you can also move projects around into different categories if you want right from here, or you can delete categories if you need to. Again, just on a deleting note, try to avoid deleting, because remember, when you delete things, there's multiple things tied to that, and it could end up breaking things more than doing any benefit. Then also, under Manage Checklists, this is where you will create your different checklists. Again, just go up to the cog to start it and add a checklist, and you can create as many checklists as you'd want. You can sort these in whatever order you want them right here. And then custom forms is right here. This is where you'll create your custom forms and set up as whatever forms that you'd like, and they all live right here. And then that project template. So we touched base a little bit on this when we were setting up the project. So for instance, here I got a large project and a small project. You can create as many different templates. This is for the setup of a project. So when you go create a template, you'll hit create new. It'll add it down here. So then you can go in and edit it. So you're going to give it a name. So what kind of maybe type of project is this for? So maybe it's a commercial, if I could spell commercial, project. And then you could put in a description of what it is if you want. You don't have to. You can grab the trades from your trade list that you set up, and whatever trades are associated with maybe your commercial projects, and grab those. Then you'll go through and maybe grab the checklists that you use on a regular basis for these. And if you do need to delete any of the checklists, just click the X right there. But you can grab whatever checklist you want. Same thing with your custom forms. You can grab those and grab whatever forms you want there. And then you can go and grab whatever pre-populated forms that there were. And then same thing with phases, where for your time tracking phases, you can grab whatever time tracking phases apply to that. So now it's kind of a shortcut for when you're building a project to pre-populate all that stuff. So you can create as many of these as you'd like over here under the project setup templates. Going into work orders, though, our work orders do a lot. So we have this work order dashboard, for better terms. This is to make the project manager's life a little easier. So you can create a project for a work order for anybody and any project right from this one location. They can set up how they want to view this page by the edit layout. So again, by clicking on the eye, you can turn on or off the fields you want to see. And again, everything is, able to be drag and dropped. Click off to save it. And then you can filter your work orders by what's not scheduled, what's scheduled, what's in progress, what's completed, what's been invoiced, what's been canceled, and what's been archived. When you go into a work order, you can see what kind of work order that is. If it's a project or service work order, you can give it a title. You can put hours to a work order because the guys can time track right against the work order here. So to clock in, they just simply hit the clock in button. It already knows the project they're on and the work order they're on, so all they have to do is simply grab the phase that they're working on and hit start time. And now they're tracking time against the project, the work order, and the phase, and they have a live running clock right here. You can schedule people to the work order right from here or in our scheduling piece, which I'll kind of go through that in a minute. But you can schedule as many people and as many different dates on a work order as you'd like. There is no limitation for that. So if you want to create a work order, like for a project work order, if you want to do it by phase and just create one really long work order that they might be working on for the pre-wire phase, for instance, that might be a couple weeks long, you can do so. You can create daily work orders, whatever you want. That's up to you. Then we give you a lot of different ways to add items or tasks to a work order. So in the middle section here, under line items, you'll go and click the plus symbol right here. And if, for instance, this was a project work order and there was a proposal involved, you can select proposal item, and then you'll search for that proposal and you'll select it. It'll pull the proposal up in front of you by location, and then you can select what items you want to add to that proposal right here. And you can even select a whole location if you'd like to. Hit add to work order. And what it did is it added the location, the product, the quantity, and also the labor phase and labor hours that were associated it from the proposal. So it creates accurate time tracking for you. You could also add, if this was maybe a service work order, you can bring in product from your product database. So again, you can just search for product, select what you want, hit OK, and it brings over the product along with the labor phase and labor hours associated with it. You could bring in one of your custom checklists if you select checklists, and you can grab one of those. Or if you just want to type in individual tasks yourself for the guys, just select item, and you can type in what you want, and then you can select the phase that applies to it, and then you can also put in how long you think this task should take them. So again, so you can keep things efficient and that things aren't dragging out in the service field either. Then you have all your list of all your different tasks right here. So if you click on the plus symbol next to a line item, you can add notes to an individual line item in our work orders. So if there's special instructions or if the guys are having an issue in the field, they can, write in a note, and it does show that there's a note added to that line item, so you know. And also in settings, you can set up the notifications that you get a notification if there's a note ever added to a line item in a work order if you want to be notified. Same thing with attachments by line item. You can add attachments that you want, and it'll upload that, and you hit done, and it'll show that there's an attachment to that line item. And again, you could get notifications for that. Then over to the right here are where the guys can check things off as they finish, so you know what's completed and what isn't. And then it does stamp who checked it off and when, so there is accountability if something isn't done. If this was a service work order and something needed to go in for repair, you can create a service repair ticket right here. So if you click on the plus symbol right here, you can type in the RMA number, the tracking number, the date you're shipping it out, and then you can set a reminder for one of these time frames that if you don't get it back, it'll send you a notification to follow up with the manufacturer so it doesn't fall through the cracks. I'm just going to clock out of the work order here quick. So to clock out, just click on it again and hit stop time. And now you're clocked out of the work order. We have the electronic signature on work orders, so you can get signatures if you want the guys to get signatures from builders or clients in the field. But let's say this was a service work order again, and you wanted, we made an easy way to create invoices for those service calls so the guys can collect payment right then and there, so you're not chasing service call invoices later on down the road. So in the invoice section right here, if you click the plus symbol, it'll pull all that client information over into our invoice section. And then we have a little clock right here that you can click on that, and the guys can see all the unbilled time for this work order. All they have to do is check the box, Hit OK. And now from your settings, it knows for final labor you charge $85 an hour, and it did the math for them automatically, so the guys don't even have to sit there and try to calculate the math. But then if they used parts off their truck, we make it easy to add materials to an invoice. Just hit the plus symbol, and you can manually type in. You can select item and manually type in all the information. If you want to bring in a line item from the work order, you can click the plus and grab one of the line items right here. But keep in mind, work orders don't have any pricing associated with them because they're just work orders. So if it's like just like a task and you want to bring over the verbiage for the description, you can do so. But for product, I'll show you where you can just go to the product manager in here and grab it there. So you can also manually type in labor if you don't want to use the clock. But here you can go, like I was saying, if you're using product, you can bring in product from the product library or even portal. So, if the guys, used a Crestron and it was a C2N something, they can just type that in. It'll reach out to portal, bring everything back that's related. They can click on it when they find it, and it brings all the pricing over automatically too. And then you can just hit add to the the invoice. And also by line item on invoices, you can select if it's taxable or non-taxable if you want to. And you can, like I mentioned last week, you can obviously do that in proposals too. You'll select the tax rate that best applies. They can get an electronic signature on an invoice. Oops, sorry about that. And then they can mark it paid if they collect payment. And then they can actually email a copy of the paid invoice to the customer right then and there. And then also we're integrated with QuickBooks Online and Xero for accounting. So you can push that invoice over into your accounting software. We also have a task page. So for all those individual tasks, we have a task management page. So you can filter these tasks by what are open, what are completed, what are coming due. And coming due means 7 days out. That's how we have that set. And then also past due. And you can tell what's by the little icon right here, what are overdue and what are coming due. I don't have any coming due, but coming due would be tan for that. And you can edit any of these tasks right here in this tasks section if you'd like. Going into scheduling, you can see all your employees. You can click on any one of your employees and see what their utilization is for that week. You can see all your unscheduled service work orders and all your unscheduled project work orders off to the left so they don't fall through the cracks. And you can see them at any time. And you can filter, the calendar by, you can do the month view, the week, the day, and the lists. So we have a lot of different views. And then also up on top here, you can filter your calendar a lot of different ways. Like for instance, if you had a separate service department and just wanted to see the service calendar, just click on that and it'll filter the calendar and the unscheduled work orders that you just see the unscheduled service work orders and you just see the service calendar here. And same thing goes with your project, which is production calendar. And then we also have employee and sales. To schedule a work order, simply just grab it and drag it over to the day and time you want it to start. It'll then drop it on that time. You can then select again from one of your presets, what color code you want for this event. You can schedule individual employees, or you can create teams, and you could have, schedule teams and just drag a team over and it brings everybody over. When you're done, you can just X out of it and it'll add it to the calendar here so you can see it. If you do need to make something longer, you don't have to click into it. You can just drag and drop it longer. And you can also drag and drop it to different days and times, and it saves automatically. And when you hover over a calendar event, it gives you a little preview of what it is. You know, the start time and start time, stop time, what project it is. Your guys are on there, so you can see all that kind of information. And then also we have some more editing features. If you click filter by, you can filter by employees, by projects, and by date. And then also under scheduling, the guys have my calendar, which is basically just their calendar. So they don't see everybody on top of it. So they do have just my schedule also. Under time tracking, so I showed you time tracking in a work order, but there's not always a work order involved. So under time tracking, we have an enter time section where here you can just grab a project and a phase and hit start time. And now you're tracking time against that project and that phase. You can also look at the currently clocked in view, where if you click on that, it'll show you a list of all your guys, the project they're on, the phase they're on, the date and time they clocked in, and a live running clock right here, and you can clock them out if you need to. Also, we have our manage phases underneath time tracking. So manage phases are where you're going to do, so remember how the phases, got pushed over from the proposal, but maybe you need to go in and add more phases at a later time, or you want to add some custom phases. You can just go over here to manage phases, search for your project, and it'll pull all your phases up that you have for this project currently. And you can edit anything right here, and you can actually make it active or inactive right here too. So if you don't want the list to be long for your guys, you can make things inactive for them so they don't see it at the drop down too. And then you can also filter it by active projects, all projects, my projects, and service projects. Under manage times in time tracking is where you can go and edit things again. So if you need to edit a time for somebody, you can go and search for the project. It'll show all the time entries, but then you got all these filtering up on top here, so you can filter by start time, end time, or date, and you can search by employee, by total hours, by phase, anything. You can even search notes if you want to. On that. So this is where you do it. And when you find what you want, you'll just click the edit button and you can edit anything right from there. Again, as long as you have the permissions for that, because that is a permission-based feature. Under service, you can go to service projects, and then you can filter what's in and out of warranty right there. Also under service, we have a service work order dashboard. This is just like that other dashboard, work order dashboard, but it's pre-filtered for just service. So again, if you have a separate service department, this is really handy. And then on repair tickets, this is where you can see all your repair tracking. So you can see your active ones and your completed ones. And also I want to go back to projects too. So I didn't touch base on. So on projects, when you click on it, remember those different statuses, they're up here. So you can filter by those. So you can see, what's going on this week, what's maybe going on next week, in progress. And also over here is where you can filter by your different categories too on that. We also do have a document library that you can share documents with your guys. This is not project specific. These are just documents you want to share with you and your team. And then here under IP scheme is where you can set up your different IP scheme range that you want your team to follow when they're setting up different product, and same thing with VLANs on that. And that really much covers the project management side of things. I'm going to go into some custom reporting though. We do have a full custom reporting section for the whole software. So under reporting, you'll go under Custom Reporting and go to Report Builder. And like I mentioned, you can build reports for pretty much every aspect of the software. Say, for instance, you wanted to do like a deals thing for your sales pipeline. You can then select what fields you want to see in the report. So just by clicking on it, and the order you click on them is the order they'll appear. The fields will appear in the report, so you can kind of customize that. Then you got all kinds of filtering down below. So like for this report, maybe I want to filter all my sales guys, and I want to see by stage all their open pipeline. So I don't want to do won or lost, and I can run a report, and it generates the report right here with all the fields. And this is exportable to CSV or Excel. And then also you can save it. So you go under your saved reports. You don't have to rebuild that all the time. It'll be underneath that. And then same thing with Chart Builder. Oops. Let me go to the Chart Builder. We give you all kinds of different charts you can select from. And then again, put in your filtering of what you want to do and draw the chart. And it's down here. And again, that's savable and exportable to that. So that kind of covers all the project management and scheduling and work orders. So I'm going to open up the floor to questions and turn it over to Jason, my senior developer, who's going to field those questions. So are there any questions, Jason?
Yeah, so start off, can you go back into a project and show them where they would access the edit for a project? So if they needed to go in and tweak forms, things like that.
For sure. So,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. So when you go back into a project, just go to the cog here and hit Edit Project. And now that'll pull all that up so you can edit it right then and there.
And then while you have that up, you can show them where they can select their trades, multiple trades from there.
Oh, yep.
That was the one piece that was missing in the setup, as well as when you select a template that it applies all of those settings you had in there. And you can also set up custom phases here, or sorry, you can add phases and that to it here without having to go into manage phases.
Yes, correct. So where you add your trades are right here, so you can see the trades that are already on here. If I wanted to add some more, I can just do that. Or if I wanted to remove one, I just click the X and I can remove it. On that, to add more time tracking phases, just go here, select the time tracking phase you want to add, and then you can put in a budget. A budget's not required, so you don't have to, but if you do want to put in a budget, just type it in and it'll add that right here. Also, one thing I didn't touch base on, so I showed how to create a project from a proposal, but if there wasn't a proposal involved, you can still create a project. Just go to projects right here and go to the cog right here and go to add new project, and you can add a new project there.
And then so back in a project where you have maybe some form data, the offline forms and the new print options that we have in there as well.
So for the forms and the offline, the trades are down here. The offline form. Where did we put that, Jason?
It's under the orange cog. We recently just moved it. So yeah, there you would go once you're viewing the forms, and then you can say print forms. Yeah.
Right there.
All right, so somebody asked if you can push our schedule into Outlook, which you can by using the iCal feature.
Yes, so to do it, it's a push only, so keep in mind that. So you do have to go into one of you can't push the master calendar, so you'll have to go into like service and project individually. Click the little iCal link right here. It'll give you the link that you have to do, and then for instructions for Outlook, Apple, or Google, just click on one of these, and it'll give you the instructions of how to set up the iCal. It's a one-time setup, and then it'll do it on a go-forward basis after that.
Somebody asked, do we provide default project templates? We don't provide necessarily a project template. That's what the the trades, phases, that's what those templates that you showed earlier were for. That's about all we can kind of template out in a project, because most everything else is going to be customizable to that individual project.
Yeah, because we don't, everybody sets up projects differently, and that's why we give you those templates to create your own.
Somebody asked, is there a way to change the reminder dates for RMA repair items? You can choose from the list of days we have, which I think is 14 through 90 days, but that list is not customizable. All right, sorry, just going through the questions here. Somebody asked that so at times they use subcontractors. How could they time track them?
Well, you would need a license for them. So you would have to get a license for your subcontractor and add them into the system to time track against them.
And then somebody's asking about multiple labor, which is an enhancement we have in our announcements. So we are working on an enhancement to add multiple labor phases to a product. That's just not currently in the system. So it's something that is planned.
So that is coming. That'll be out in the next few months. It's on our enhancement list. And just a reminder, so you guys do know what's on the roadmap. If you go into the announcements section of the software, we have our feature request section right here where you can request feature, but the roadmap kind of lists everything that we're working on. So here's some enhancements, smaller enhancements like multiple proposals per project, progressive invoicing from a proposal, multiple phases per product, which I think that was just the one that was asked, multiple pricing rules per proposal, proposal total button to deal, cloning proposals, and then we have, and there's some more here, but then a big one that we're working on right now is inventory management, which we're hoping is going to be out beginning of summer. And then we're also going to be working on a commercial proposal tool, QuickBooks desktop integration, the parent-child projects, asset management, a client portal, and a configurable dashboard.
Looks like right now that's all the questions. Does anybody have any other questions? You can either raise your hand in the software or ask it in the question box. All right, we got another question here. Can you track time against a project from an employee or subcontractor that doesn't have a login? No. That you have to track time, you have to have a login to track that time against somebody. Looks like that's all the questions right now. I guess one more round of, if there's any other questions, ask them now. I believe this is a follow-up to the previous question. Would that require another license? Yes, you would need the standard project management license.
Yeah, just the standard project management license that you need. That you wouldn't need like a proposal or a CRM license for that.
Right now the question queue is empty.
Well, I appreciate everybody's time. We'll publish this webinar to the websites in the next day or so, and we'll try to have more webinars on a regular basis to cover workflow and best practices of the software like we just did, and we'll probably be repeating them because not always everybody can make them. But thank you for your time. We know you're busy, and we appreciate your support. And if you have any questions or want to schedule a training, you can email support@projX360.com. If you're not a client yet and you want to request a demonstration of the full software for you and your team, just email sales@projX360.com and we can schedule that. And thank you again for your time and have a great day.